Welcome to Cape Ann Report. I'm your host, Maureen Aylward. Cape Ann Report is a weekly program that looks at insights and information on what's happening on Cape Ann. For this show, I'm speaking with Kate Sundquist, blogger of 365Outside.org, and we're going to talk about this fantastic blog that we've just learned about. Kate, welcome to Cape Ann Report.
Thanks so much for having me.
How fun is it to do so many adventures with your children? I mean, 365.org, 365outside.org is all about getting outside with your children, or just in general getting outside.
Absolutely.
Right?
And we live in an area that is so rich in opportunities for doing that. And I think that it's something that people normally think about during the summer. We live, so close to the water, and we have beaches and boating and all those types of activities that people pursue outside in the summer. And now I think this time of year is generally the time of year when people sort of start to hunker down and go into that hibernation mode. And so now is really the season when I find that it's most energizing to get outside. It might be the hardest to motivate to do it, but you feel so much better after breathing that fresh, cool air and sort of, getting your blood flowing out there a little bit.
Right. So this is, you're right, this is hibernation time. The daylight savings times has happened,
Yes.
and we're in the dark zone until over a couple of months. But you have two small children, and
3.5 and 5. Yes,
right, and
both boys.
So how do you get them outside during this time of the year?
Oh, I don't have to get them outside. They just go now. So really the 365 Outside project for us started 2 years ago. And so since January 1st, 2015, they have played outside every day, regardless of the weather, with the exception of one day when we got stuck at JFK in standby purgatory for 14 hours. But wow. Aside from that, they have been outside every day since then. And originally it was something that I had to there was some bribery going on. There was a lot of careful choosing of the activities that we would be doing. And now it's gotten to the point where they're the ones dragging me out the door. And I'm the one saying, okay, guys, we really need to head back in now. We've been out 3 hours and it's 12 degrees.
Right. Well, children and nature, those things go together perfectly.
Absolutely.
What have you learned over these last few years in doing the blog and having this challenge for yourself, or this goal?
Yeah, so originally the 365 Outside concept came from a New Year's resolution that was just a personal project for us. And I had made the resolution that we would spend time outside together as a family every day. And sort of as we started to do that, I noticed some changes. I noticed that I personally felt better emotionally. I was sleeping better at night. My kids were sleeping better. I felt more energized, and I started to wonder if those were just our personal experiences, or if those are things that sort of have been proven to go hand in hand with the experiences that we were having outside. And so I started researching it and realized that there are actually a lot of benefits to being outside. In fact, they're threefold. So there are physical benefits to getting outside. It lowers your blood pressure. People have been shown to have stronger immune systems, and children who play outside routinely actually develop better distance vision, which is a really cool thing. And then there's also emotional benefits. So kids or people, not even just kids who play outside, have been shown to have, it naturally elevates their mood. It's been shown to relieve symptoms of seasonal affective disorder, so like mild depression symptoms that come this time of year. The most effective, easiest therapy for those is getting outside and sort of being in the natural light. And then outside of the physical and emotional benefits, there's another element, which is that kids who play outside and have these really valuable experiences with their mentors, whether they're parents, whether they're teachers, whether it's just a friend, kids who have these experiences outside grow up to be kids that, to be adults who care about the environment. They grow up to be stewards of the environment. They grow up to be conservationists. And I think that it's so important to be raising that generation to be raising the next generation to care about those things. And so I view it as a sort of very small political movement that I can do with my children to sort of ensure that their generation is going to grow up to be one that cares about these very important issues.
Right. And place-based education really does show that when you get outside and you learn more about your place, you love it. And
Yes.
when you love some place, you take care of it.
Yes.
And that's just an essential element to all the things that you were saying. There's just so many added benefits.
Absolutely. That emotional affinity for nature is something that you plant the seeds for while kids are still very, very young. And there have been some studies that showed that kids now are not familiar with their natural environments. You know, there was a study recently out of England that showed that grade school children could more readily identify huge numbers of Pokemon than they could natural species from their home environments. You know,
getting them
birds
out
and
into the
plants
backyard, and learning more about that.
Absolutely.
We might have to just leave the Pokemon aside there for a moment, because that's very a challenging thing when we're talking about the importance of nature as true education.
Yes, absolutely.
What have you found about children who get outside and have these experiences outside by themselves? Certainly parents are somewhat cautious nowadays, and really may not want their child to either climb a tree because they might get hurt, or go too close to the river. What?
Absolutely. So risk management and playing outside go hand in hand. And I was just reading an article recently in Psychology Today that was speaking to the fact that North American 21st century society is maybe the society that has underestimated the abilities of children the most over the history of mankind. And that really blew my mind to think that, wow, out of everyone, anywhere, out of any time, we're not giving our kids the credit that they can do these things. And so I find that when I step back and I let my kids experience real risks, and I let my kids take real responsibilities for themselves, and of course I frame them appropriately, and I make sure that they're aware of the risks and that sort of thing, but that they ultimately are going to be more equipped to deal with real responsibilities and to deal with real risks. Yeah,
letting your children go out and having experiences with running with sticks, for instance, is probably a good idea after all. I mean, my children are much older than yours, of course, but I did a similar thing when they were small. I made sure that they played outside in every type of weather. I still remember my son Miles going out with his rain boots and his diaper, walking around when he was, a year and a half or so in the rain. It's such a valuable thing to let them get out there and do things and experience. And they're so smart, and they challenge us in so many ways, but getting outside is definitely one of the most important things that you can do for children.
Absolutely. Some of the questions that my kids come up with, about their natural environment really force me to think about it as well. They'll ask me questions about the tidal cycle or the moon and those types of things, and sometimes I know the answer, and sometimes we have to go and look it up together, the name of a bird or the name of a flower and that type of thing. So a lot of the times I'm learning alongside them.
That's right. Tell me a little bit more about the blog and what you're currently working on, things that you're trying to focus on if you are moving in one direction or another.
Yeah, absolutely. So the blog really serves two purposes. I really want to encourage other people to do more of sort of the explorations outside that we're doing, because I think it's a really positive thing for everyone, not just families with young children. But aside from that, I also try to do some community education, and I try to talk about important issues. So I have both of those things coming up on my blog. First, in terms of helping other people get outside, we're about to enter the winter months, and that can be a time when it's a lot harder to do these things. I'm sure you've put a toddler in a snowsuit before, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
But also there's sort of a monotony when there's a lot of snow outside. It can be hard to to do something other than sledding and snowmen and that type of thing. So I do try to put out in December a guide for activities that families can do outside in the snow that are beyond sledding and snowmen, because I think it's, you know, nice to have some outside of the box options there. And then on the other side, outside of the sort of motivating people on the community education side, I'm also working with a pediatrician to come up with some advice about Lyme disease and tick prevention, and, you know, things that people who live on Cape Ann need to be aware of.
Yes, that sort of goes with what's outside these days, right?
Yes.
Where are some of your favorite spots if you go outside?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are so lucky in where we live and the number of green spaces and places that we have to explore. So I actually didn't realize until I started researching that the Greenbelt, Essex County Greenbelt, has over 60 properties on Cape Ann alone, so just within the Cape Ann communities. One of our favorites is the Alan Cox Reservation, which is right in Essex, right off of 133 there. And that just has some paths that sort of meander through some beautiful, beautiful fields and then go down to the river. My boys are still getting the hang of riding their bikes, and so they love to bring their bikes there because it's kind of a soft landing on the grassy trails, and it's a really beautiful, beautiful place.
That is beautiful. I've been there.
Yeah.
Several times. It's a lovely place to walk.
Absolutely.
Especially this time of year.
Yes, definitely. It looks out on the marsh. You can see the leaves changing. And then in Rockport, we have Halibut Point State Park, which is another one of our favorite places, just in terms of the vistas with the granite quarry and the history there. And, you know, there's all sorts of cool nooks and crannies to explore there. Just another one of our favorites.
Yeah, there are so many places. We just had Essex County Greenbelt, Ed Becker, on the show, and he was describing some new properties that are coming on, which is wonderful. And yeah, so take advantage of these spots. I mean, Trustees of Reservations, that's close by too, in Ipswich, and certainly if you wanted to go a little further afield. Yeah,
another one of our favorites is Coolidge Reservation, which is a trustee's property in Manchester by the Sea, and that just has a nice hike through the woods. It's maybe a mile and a half, maybe just over a mile out to, you know, these grassy fields that go down to the water, and there's a foundation from an old mansion that used to be there. And so we have wonderful places to explore that I'm still discovering more places that are out there, which I think is a great thing because, you know, clearly we've been spending a lot of time exploring, and the fact that there's more and more for us to see is a really amazing thing about where we live.
Well, you're a sailor and your husband's a sailor too, and I wanted to get that in because sailing with kids can sometimes be challenging.
Yes, absolutely.
And I saw on the blog a really nice photo essay with the kids in sailing.
Yeah, so my husband and I both used to work and live on schooners before we settled here. My husband grew up around here. I grew up on Cape Cod. And so we knew that sailing was something that we wanted to give to our children. We think it's a really empowering experience for kids, and it's just another way of viewing the world and viewing sort of your place on this giant world, and you're just one tiny part of it. I think a great way to realize that is to be on a tiny boat in a big ocean. I
agree. It's an amazing experience of nature, and it's totally different to get off the land. And I agree. It's wonderful. It's wonderful that you're doing this and writing about your experiences with your children and encouraging people to get outside. 365Outside.org is your blog, and good luck with it all. I hope our viewers get a chance to take a gander at it. Go online and check it out. And until the next time on Cape Ann Report, Kate, I'm sorry we're out of time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Take a look, and we'll see you next time.